is struggling right now, you're going to notice your happiness is struggling. So let me give you some tools to lift your happiness up, and then inherently that'll lift your business up. And each one of these ideas, I think you'll see exactly how they correlate to happiness. Some crazy statistics, by the way, about happiness. 48% of people are happy in the United States. Can you believe that? Half the people. Now, by the way, this was pre-pandemic. So are you more happy or less happy today? 33% of people are happy with their jobs. Are you happy with your job? So that means 66% of people aren't happy. They actually are detached from their job. Happiest careers, interestingly, clergy, firefighters, and reservation agents. Now, what? Hold on, real estate agents aren't on there? But I would bet actually real estate agents as a career are happier. We know they're happier than lawyers. Lawyers, interestingly, have one of the lowest levels of happiness. And part of that is because of how they've trained their brains. They've been trained to find the problem, to find what's not working. They found that people that live in larger metropolis areas are happier than those that live in rural areas. That actually surprises me. I thought, you'd be happier in a smaller town, but apparently you also need other people and other services. This is a kind of a mind bender for you. The income actually doesn't correlate to happiness very far. Only up to $75,000 does income and happiness correlate. Above $75,000, you're not exponentially happier if you have exponentially more money. You don't, up to 75,000, it matters. Once you're having your basic needs met, happiness generally isn't a derivative of the money you have, which is important because right now a lot of us are losing money, right, in our businesses. But if once we can get our basic needs met, let's also see if we can also still be creative and find other ways to grow through this. Healthier people are 20% happier than those with average health. So if you're a healthy person generally, you're going to be happier. That also is going to help you actually make better decisions, feel better about life. And this is a mind bender here. The happiest ages on average are 18 years old, right? Because they're clueless. They have no clue. And up to 73 years of age, which is, I think, the year right before they blow their hip out. And so that's a very happy year. Now, this is the scary one. Least happy ages are 58. Don't you wonder why? Like, what is it with 58 and 85? One thing we do know about 85 is it's probably a little lonelier. A lot of your friends are no longer around. You may be more isolated. Anyway, just some general stats about happiness. And so just be thinking about it. Are you a happy person? What I want to teach you is that there are some keys here, okay? The ABCs, I call them, of happiness. 3 basic principles we're going to focus on. And if you can do these 3 things during this pandemic, you're going to be more resilient and happy. You're going to be able to see your way through it. And I'm going to give you as many tools as I can in the time we have. First, happy people appreciate today. Happy people live in the present. They're here today. They don't obsess about yesterday. They don't worry about tomorrow per se. They focus and live in the present moment. And there's a ton of research we'll get into as to how to do that and why we do that. But if you can't be here today, it's going to set you up for a problem. Anxiety is a function of emotions trying to communicate to you that you need to do something. So whenever you feel stress and worry, pretty much, by the way, any emotion that you feel is designed to basically make sure you maximize opportunity and you minimize pain. That's why we have emotion. Pleasure means we need to take advantage more of what's happening. Let's do more of this. Pain is something that's telling us avoid that. And so all emotions are there to instruct us and inform us of how to take advantage and not be hurt. Anxiety and worry are the same. So if you're out there feeling a lot of worry, it's telling you something. Now, what you do with it is up to you. If you go buy 500 million rolls of toilet paper, that's good, I guess, but you might have too much. And you're not actually acting on what you need to act on. Toilet paper may not be your key to your business advantage, right? But you still will feel compelled to go get it. We've got to learn to be present in our lives. And honestly, think about it. If you were a daydreamer back in the caveman days and you spent all day under a tree thinking about how great your life would be someday, you'd probably be dead, right? Because you weren't meant to daydream your life away back then. You were meant to not get killed and to keep moving and to keep finding and to keep foraging and to keep building and making stuff happen in your life. Anxiety is the same thing. We got to be careful to make sure that we stay in the moment and do what we can do in the moment. And right now, every one of us need to learn to appreciate what we do have today and then believe in tomorrow. There is opportunity tomorrow. And if you can believe in the opportunity and you can still handle and keep your business together and appreciate what's going on and still believe, don't spend all day obsessing about tomorrow. Believe it's going to be good. And then let's start today doing what we can to move towards it. You're going to see your worries dissipate and go away. And along the way, I want you to learn to connect deeply with other people. You're starting to see that we are reliant on the world. We are reliant on our networks. We are reliant on the people around us. And let me let you in. You guys are already good at this. You're good at this. You are the people. You are good at connecting deeply. So I'm going to bet you're all good at various parts of what we're going to talk about, but I'm going to give you some tools, and then I want you to do everything you can to start doing the ABCs, appreciating what's happening and your place in it. Believe in tomorrow. You've got hope, and let's connect with each other along the way. Sean Achor he uses this term for happiness. The term is one that Aristotle used called eudaimonia. And eudaimonia translates not to being happy as a feeling, but to human flourishing. Are you flourishing as a human being? Are you growing? Are you in a state of flow? Are you maximizing yourself physically, socially, emotionally, spiritually, financially? Are you doing what you can do? Are you leveraging the opportunities? Are you connecting to the people? Are you healthy physically? Are you staying healthy? Are you socially talking and networking? Are you spiritually finding peace? That is truly what human flourishing is. And if we would focus on all of these instead of one success, you're going to find happiness. And the happiness will then enlighten how to go create more success in your life, if that makes sense. Let's get into it. To appreciate today, one of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins says, trade your expectation for appreciation, and the world changes instantly. Do you remember how bad the pandemic was feeling? And then we had an earthquake. And do you remember how that just totally tipped you over? And then all of a sudden, you thought it couldn't get worse. And then in my world, I had a friend of mine pass away because of the COVID virus. Bob Garf, you probably heard of Bob Garf, who owns Garf Motors, and an incredible human being. He was a family friend of ours, and we were really close. And he passes away, and we couldn't believe it. Like, what? This is so real now. And I was expecting that, a few people would die. I just wouldn't know them. But it's weird. I hadn't learned to appreciate what I had until an earthquake. Then I hadn't appreciated it until I lost a friend. Then I hadn't appreciated it until I had a son come home from an LDS mission 3 months early and got to have him home, and he's safe and sound, and we're all good. That was so great. And then I just heard the news of a family friend that had a baby, a 3-year-old child, die in their swimming pool in Florida. See the up and down of life. And we've got a simple way to manage it. Trade what you expect, all these things you expect to have, and instead trade it for appreciating what you do have. And when you start appreciating what you do have, amazingly, the world changes for you. And the weird thing that we're now experiencing in this opportunity, this pandemic, is we have more and more experiences to appreciate what we do have. Let me give you some really interesting some research here that's coming from positive psychology. Did you know that 93% of the people are happiest when they use their strengths for 10 hours a week? Now, if I brought a KSL team to your house and we put a microphone in front of your face and I asked you to list your top 5 strengths, would you know what they are? Would you know what and I call them character strengths, and I'm going to give you a place to go find out what yours are, but are you using them every day? Because statistically, only 25% of us are actually using our strengths 10 plus hours a week. However, those people that are 93% happier, really. We are happier people when we know what our strengths are and we're living them. My top 5 strengths, 6 strengths, our number 1 strength is social intelligence. My number 2 strength is perspective and wisdom. 3 strength, creativity, hope, spirituality, and humor. Now, what I do every day in my life are my top 6 strengths. And I'm not bragging.
Uh-oh, I might have lost him for a second. Emily, do you want to continue this speech?
Sure, I've got it memorized.
Yeah, I'm starting to write down questions. Anybody that's on right now can chat some questions. Hopefully we have another like 10 or 15 minutes just there at the end that we can ask questions. One of the questions I was even thinking about as he was talking was...
It looks like everybody's gone.
We still have all the participants, but I think
okay.
the
Sorry.
feed from Facebook. But I want you to write a couple questions down too as well. But I was even thinking morning routine, right? Like he's such a filled with wisdom type of individual, and he just seems like he is. Like everything I read about him in his books and his, other trainings I've been to, he just positivity, and just like the optimism that he just like the energy that's always around him is fantastic. But I'd love to see what his morning routine also looks like. His affirmations big in his life. Does he journal? Some of those things, So let me hurry and text him too.
I love what he's talking about, how how the happiness comes first. That we do. I mean, so many times we set these goals, especially in an industry that we're in right now, where we're very goal heavy and we're working hard on reaching this next parameter and this next parameter. And sometimes our identity and our happiness kind of ties with that. That as soon as I get to this point, then I'll be happy. Where he's flipping that and saying, no, you have to be happy first. Then it makes it easier to get to those success points. That we're just thinking of it in the opposite way.
Yeah. And a few people chatting just on how do they find their strengths. Like even you, I think you've gotten pretty decent at your strengths. Oh, we might have him back.
I see his face.
Welcome back. You're muted.
Can I hear him? You're on mute though. One more step.
Oh my heck, can you hear me?
There we go. Success.
We just had a huge power surge.
Earthquake.
It's because I was talking about strengths. Okay, so can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, we're good. Yep.
Okay, good. So I was talking about these strengths, and I'm going to give you a place where you can go. Can you guys see that screen yet?
Nope, it's just you.
Okay, here we go. But one of the things that, as I'm talking about my strengths, I'm not telling you mine so you can brag, so you can be impressed by me. I want you to see my strengths, and I want to tell you how I figured it out. I didn't know that social intelligence was my highest strength, except in high school, I knew I was really good with people. I didn't know I had perspective and wisdom, and that I could counsel people very well, except I did notice, like in college, that I did have a lot of friends that would come to me with questions. I didn't know I was that creative, except when I worked for Franklin Covey as a young writer, I loved creating content. And I didn't even know my humor would work for me in a way that I could go on my speaking gigs and go make money speaking and being funny in situations. So I didn't know I had these strengths, but they were inside of me. And what we're finding out about really healthy people is you don't have to be everything. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be everything in the world to be happy. All you have to do to be happy is identify what you're already good at in your strengths and live them. And so the way we do this is there is a test you can go take on a website called AuthenticHappiness.org. By the way, this is the most important thing I could probably leave with you. If you did nothing from this time together except go take this test, go to AuthenticHappiness.org. Underneath the Assessments tab, take the VIA Character Strengths Assessment. And if you'll take it, it'll basically take you about 40 minutes. It'll ask you question over question over question. And in the end, it will give you a ranking from your number 1 strength all the way down to your 24th strength. I want you to go find out what your top 5 or 6 strengths are, and I want you to start living them. In the middle of a pandemic, let me let you in on a secret. Nothing else matters but you living your 5 strengths. Every single time in my life I have ever been nervous to do something, I wish I had known my strengths back in the day. Because when I was nervous as a new employee at Franklin Covey, I still had these same strengths. And what they do is they bring me confidence. These are what are called character strengths, or your virtues. And what the researchers did in positive psychology is their basic belief is that when people live their character virtues, the things that they're uniquely gifted to be good at, these aren't talents. Like, this isn't your ability to dunk a ball. This isn't rhythm. This isn't something that's a physical trait. This is your character. This is the essence of who you are. And the research is very clear. When you live clearly what you're strong at living in character, you are happy. And what's fun about my life now is I literally, every hour that I'm working, whether it's coaching, speaking like this, writing, I'm using my strengths. And so I feel confident even in the midst of a pandemic. Because even if I lost everything in my life, if I lost everyone and everything, I would still have to approach my life through my strengths. So I challenge every one of you to go find what your strengths are and then bring them to the game. Now, here's an interesting truth. My 24th strength, which is really a weakness probably, right, is self-regulation. And so I don't regulate myself very well, meaning I have to have people that keep me on task. I have to have people that keep my clients coming and going. I don't regulate. I could spend my entire life trying to improve my ability to regulate, and weirdly, it won't make me happier. It won't. But I could also focus on my top 6, and that will help me regulate. So a little trick is I use my top 5 or 6 strengths to manage my weaknesses. So in my office, I've set my office up so I can look out the window, and when I'm coaching a client, I can see my next client pull up. And my social intelligence tells me I have to end with this one because that one's here. And then, but that's better for me than knowing that I have a schedule. Does that make sense? Because the schedule doesn't work for my strength. And then I want you to go figure out what yours are. And you're going to find out some of you have some of the coolest things going on, and they're so underground that you don't even know that it's actually a strength for you. Like, one strength could just be kindness. Some of you are so kind. Some of you have a really high love of learning. Love of learning is about my 7th. I love to learn. Some of you don't love to learn. You don't. It's not one of your strengths, but you're really good at being brave. So you dare ask the right questions. So everyone's got something different to offer. And if I were you, I'd also make sure that you know what your spouse's strengths are. If you have teenagers, have your teenagers take the assessment. In my family, I know all the strengths of all of my family. When we need something fun, I have my 3 boys. I have 3 boys that their number 1 strength is fun. And they immediately make something fun. I have another boy when we go on trips. I have one boy that has a love of learning that's really high, and he'll do everything he can to get us to the museums. So go figure out what your strengths are. And then I challenge you to start bringing them to your workplace and manage the trials of this pandemic from your strength, not your weakness. Make sense? Go to AuthenticHappiness.org. It's a University of Pennsylvania, basically. You're just joining a study. They're not going to sell your information, but you'll have to log in. You'll have to give your email, and then you can go in and take a variety of different assessments. But one of the tests you want to take is the VIA character strengths test. By the way, in positive psychology, they believe the way to be the healthiest person you can be is living your strength. And by doing that, you'll eliminate your anxiety disorder. You'll eliminate some of your other issues, your ADHD even. Some of your other issues could be either mitigated or managed more effectively by living your strengths. Make sense? Another key to being in the moment and appreciating what's going on is appreciating the gifts you've been given. They did some research on nuns in a monastery, and they found out that nuns that expressed their faith and optimism in their journals ended up living much longer than those that were more negative in their journals. So this is where the idea and the research of gratitude journaling came from, is that when you identify the gifts you've been given, life's a lot better. You may have heard of Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom was a Christian woman that was captured by the Nazis, thrown into thrown into, I think it was Dachau or another camp. And when she was there, she was there because she was hiding Jews and trying to make it so that basically it was an underground. It was the underground, the Jewish underground, trying to get them across the border without being captured by the Nazis. Well, she got caught. She was thrown into a barrack. And in the barracks that she was in, they were infested with fleas. And yet somebody had been able to sneak her in a Bible. So she would gather with these Christian women in these barracks, and even Jewish women in the barracks, and she would share the Bible with them. And every night they'd talk about it and they'd pray to God. And every night when they'd have her prayer, she would thank God for the fleas that she had been blessed with, and the fleas that had infested the entire barracks. And finally, her sister got so mad at her and said, "Corrie, why do you keep praying for the fleas? The fleas are horrible. Don't pray for fleas or God will keep sending fleas." And she said, "I pray for the fleas because the barracks are infested with fleas. And when we have infested barracks, the guards don't dare come in. And if the guards don't dare come in, they can't come in and find the bot. They can't come in and take away our Bible. So pray for the fleas." And what she shows us is, and as did anybody that has survived horrible experiences, we need to figure out what the blessings are, right? And we need to kind of count those blessings. And C.S. Lewis taught the idea of given gifts and expected gifts. There are certain things you have been given. Every day you're given a huge tray of gifts. Most of them you may not have expected, but each of these gifts are important. And there's health in identifying what you've been given and appreciating the given gift instead of just wanting the expected gift. He always talked about the fact that imagine that you were hungry and starving, and you went out into the forest and you needed to make a meal and find some food to eat. But he said it's different if you go to the forest looking for an expected gift of a meal. If you go out there looking for a Chick-fil-A sandwich, you're going to spend a long time looking for Chick-fil-A. But if you just would actually take what's been given, which maybe is an edible root, or a berry that you can eat, or a mushroom that's edible and safe, just take the gift you've been given and it'll give you life. But if you keep expecting something that hasn't been given, then you're going to lose it. And one of the keys to being and accepting what is make sure that you're counting your blessings right now for all that you've been given. There's a lot going really right with you. Now your business may be struggling, seriously, but you're healthy. You have time with your kids. You live in a first world country. You're not India waiting for this thing to hit. You're not Africa waiting for this thing to hit. You are very lucky, very blessed. And one of the ideas is simply count your given gifts. Identify 3 gifts that make you happy every day. And if I were you, I'd make it a family habit that every night we're going to talk about the given gifts, the 3 things that have mattered to us. The research is very clear. When you're able to see the good, you create more space for more good to come, right? And you start actually creating more benefit in your life. Another tool is just simply to believe in tomorrow. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? So how do scientists define happiness? Essentially as a positive experience. Oh, hold on, I can't see it. Sorry. Let's see here. Bueller. Okay, I don't want to mess with it. There was a really good quote about positive experience, but what the positive experience was about was it's not enough to just have positive experiences and have good emotion. Part of the key is also that the emotion is about meaning and purpose. Happy people have meaning and purpose enmeshed in their emotions. Otherwise, you're just being stimulated by life, right? Life's not just about having fun. If you want to be happy, you need to have positive emotion, good positive emotions, but you also have to have those emotions embedded with meaning and purpose. So I need you to be thinking about what brings you meaning, what brings you purpose in your life. One of the great things that we're finding in positive psychology comes from some of this research by Carol Dweck, who is a PhD, and she basically says, be careful what kind of mindset you have, and you may not even know this, but some of us have what's called a growth mindset, and some of us have a fixed mindset. The growth mindset basically is an idea that we can learn, we can grow, we can develop. The fixed mindset is one that you are what you are. A lot of this is manifested when it comes to math, for example. Are you born with a math brain or do you grow a math brain? Now, I thought for sure I was born with it because I can't do math. I never could. I had a big test coming up and my mom was like, I was so mad. I had been failing this class and the teacher said, look, I'll let you retake the test like for the third time, Matt. Just go home and study and we'll let you retake it Monday. So I went home so ticked off. Why do I have to take the test? It's so stupid. We'll never use math. And my mom said this to me. She said, Matt, you need to relax, okay? You're a Townsend and we're not math people. We don't do math, okay? Your dad didn't do math. Grandpa didn't do math. We're not math people. And it was the first time in my life I had heard that. Like I thought I had to learn it. It's so dumb. I thought I had to learn it. And my mom's like, it's just not us. We don't do that. It's almost like she had just told me like I had Parkinson's, like I've got a name for it now. Oh, okay. We don't do that. So I just quit studying because why would I? Like I'm a Townsend. We're not math people. So I went back to my teacher on Monday and she had all of my sisters in math at Highland High School. And she said, Matt, are you ready to retake that test? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, no, but here's the deal. I talked to my mom and she made it clear that we're not math people. So I'm not sure I'm going to retake it. And this lady looked at me like, what? And she's like, I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but my dad didn't do math. My mom, we're not math people. My sisters, she's like, I know, I've had all of you. And you're right, you're not very good at it. And then I'll never forget this moment. Her little glasses were down and she poked my chest with her chubby little finger. And she said, this Townsend is going to do math. And right then I learned that I have to have a growth mindset. The growth mindset means I can learn anything I want to. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. I want to challenge myself. When I fail, I learn. Tell me I try hard. Don't tell me I'm smart about it or I'm good at it. Tell me I'm trying hard. If I succeed, I'm inspired, and my effort and attitude determine everything. Now, if you compare that to a fixed mindset, people with fixed mindsets, so think about this. You brought new agents on, and they thought that they were either going to be good at it or they're not. Instead of thinking they can learn it, they think they're just going to be good at it or not. They get frustrated and they give up. They don't like to be challenged. When I fail, I feel like I'm no good. They tell me I'm a smart person. They want to know they're smart instead of that they try hard. If I succeed, if other people succeed, I tend to feel threatened with my fixed mindset. And my abilities determine everything. I want you to start to question which mindset you're using. If you have a fixed mindset in a pandemic, you might be in trouble. If you have a growth mindset in the pandemic, you're going to go figure out a way. You're going to learn from the people that are learning. You're going to succeed and use your gifts and your talents. You're going to stay present, and you're going to actually see that you have a future because you're going to learn how to do it. And you're going to use your strengths to do it your way. You don't have to do it everyone else's ways. You do it your way. So that's called the growth mindset.
Hey, Matt, I love this particularly right now. Before we started the call, we were talking about being home and doing homeschool and things like that. And it's hard, like for parents, we're relearning things. Now we're responsible to teach our kids these things.
Yeah. Totally.
And so what a great way to kind of change the thinking of our kids at this time, where we have control of their learning environment right now.
That's
that
right.
we haven't had, right? And
right.
in their actual school environment. And what a great way to try to infuse this into ourselves as we're learning math again in a new way. Yeah. And then also in trying to help them understand things in a different way.
Well, and one way to do this too, Emily, is to make sure you focus on their strengths, and their strengths of character, how hard they're trying, how curious they just were. I so appreciate your effort you're putting in. You've really given this a lot of time instead of automatically attributing it to a trait that they're just inherently good at that they may not have any control over. Or like a lot of times we'll tell our daughters they're beautiful. And by focusing on their beauty's something, you're born with. And you've got symmetry, you've got the look, you've got the benefits of it. But there are other things that we can grow constantly. And that's a big thing to focus on, because how you end up focusing on this going forward, no matter what, if you've already kind of know that you have kind of a fixed mindset, just notice it. The simple fact of noticing your mindset is one of the things that makes us uniquely human. Humans can notice their own mindset. The rest of the animal kingdom doesn't sit there and say, wow, I don't like how I'm thinking about this. They don't think that way. When a deer hears a gun shoot or a gunfire, the deer just reacts and takes off running. And when it gets to the higher field, it's not up there thinking about what just happened. Was that the same thing that killed Grandpa? They're not freaking out. They actually just immediately get present and they get back to some peace. Humans, on the other hand, it's our thinking that actually messes us up. Weirdly, there's only a few animals that are chronically stressed on this earth, and one of them are human beings. And the other ones are any animals that live with human beings, because we're so stress-inducing to others. And so just know that deep down, you might be struggling a little bit simply because of how you're thinking about it. One other thing as we go forward, and this is going to sound so weird to do right now, but I want to do it because it's so powerful. We all are worried about what tomorrow looks like, but we can only do so many things today. And if I obsess too much about tomorrow without acting today, it will set me up. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. If you found out you were dying and you had only, let's just say, 2 years to live, what would you do? And if I were you, I'd go take some time and I'd very specifically think about what you would do for 2 years. You'd probably set your family up financially. You'd probably spend a lot of time with important people you love. You might have some trips you'd want to take. What would you do? What we're trying to figure out here is what matters most to you in your life. What's your passion and what's your mission and your purpose? And that's going to be found in that activity of those 2 years. But let's say we had only 2 months to live. Now what are you going to do? What people are going to pop up? What passions? What purpose is going to focus? You had 2 months to live. What if you only had 2 weeks to live? Does that change it? Now, eventually at 2 weeks to live, money might be out of your mind. Now it's just my family, my kids. If you only had 2 hours to live, would we be thinking about another round of golf? Would we be thinking about, what would you be thinking about? So I want you to just go through the activity, not to be morbid, but to figure out what the purpose of your life is, what's the passion, and who are the people that need to be there. And then I'm going to challenge you today, when you get off this call, to go act as if. Go live with your family in quarantine as if you had 2 months to live. See if it doesn't bring you more present, and see if it doesn't help you connect more deeply to the people around you. The last thing really is about connecting deeply with others. And when we connect deeply with others, really life changes. Dr. Brene Brown calls connection, defines it this way. I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. So each one of those you could write down: seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Your relationship with another person has value, and that value can become a multiplier for you. And again, I said this earlier, I really think most of you are probably like incredible social ninjas. You're really good with people. Some of you are more introverted, and that's fine. About 70% of people tend to be 70% of anxious people tend to be more introverted. But some anxious people also are still extroverted. And just so you know, think about yourself when it comes to extroversion and introversion, just so you know, is about the version. It's about how you convert energy. So some extroverts, they get energized by being outside with other people. They get the energy from outside them. That's what extroversion means. Introversions get energy by being alone. Like I love doing these speeches because I give a lot of energy and I get a lot of energy. But then when I'm done, I'm sapped. So then I need to be alone, and that actually re-energizes me. Some people would get energized doing this. I actually lose energy doing this, and then I need to be alone to gain energy. So are you an introvert or an extrovert? And what are the people around you? And what do they need? What do your kids need to feel seen and heard and valued? Because now you've got the time. You've got location with them. You've got proximity. These are all the keys to a relationship. Now let's just be present. Accept what's going on. Believe in tomorrow and connect deeply with the people around us. Let me just teach you one more thing that if I could do, this is one of the greatest things I've learned by Barbara Fredrickson about what is the key to connecting to others. It's 3 things. There's 3 keys. And if you'll do these 3 things, you will create what's called synchrony, and you'll actually create positive resonance with other people. So anytime you're in a moment, there's 3 things we're looking for. I know it's a lot of words, but let's just go each category at a time. 3 keys to connecting with others. You must have positivity, meaning shared positive emotional experiences. By the way, this can come at a funeral. This can come in a pandemic. A positive experience is a shared positive emotional experience. Think about your own family. Are you having those with your family? It's any moment, regardless of the situation, where positive emotions are present. Positive energy, support, validation, safety, openness, laughter, what I call the star stuff, the safety, the trust, the appreciation, the respect. So do you have the ability to create positive moments? Think about that with any client that you get on the phone with. Create a positive shared experience. The second thing that needs to be there is synchrony. Synchrony is where we have mirrored behavior between the two of us. It's where somebody says something funny and you laugh immediately because you're seeing it and you're feeling it. Synchrony is when, have you ever noticed that when someone trips in front of you, you startle? That's called synchrony. Synchrony happens when you just turn everything else off and you focus on the one in front of you. It's a natural human thing to do. Our brains are wired to be in sync. That's why when somebody cries and they start tearing up, you start to cry with them. You weren't going to cry when they weren't crying, but now they're crying, so you're crying. That's called synchrony. So if you have positivity and you're in sync with them because you're present, which means turn off your tech, turn off your distractions, turn off your schedule, turn off your calendars when you're with somebody and be with them. Be with them enough to synchronize with them. And just so you know, your body will do it naturally. So when you're positive and you're in sync and you're charitable, meaning you're looking out for the well-being of them, you're prioritizing their need before yours. So every time you're making a call to a client or somebody that was looking for a house and now they're like, I don't know if we're going to do it now. If you're not careful, you'll be in negativity and negative synchrony with them and not charitable. But if you can step in and be in positivity and in sync with them, like, I know these times are so hard. What can I do to help you right now? You're an important person to me, and it's not just because I need a sale. Let me listen to what you're going through, John. I just lost my job, and I can listen, and I serve, and I care, and I lift, and I let my character be with this person. When I use my character strengths, by the way, with this person, charity is what's going to come out. Those are the 3 keys. And when you bring them in, you can bring them in anytime you want. A lot of times with your family right now, there is positivity and there is charity because you love them, but you're not in sync because you're on your phone while they're talking. Just put your phone down and get present, and boom, you'll have connection with them. Does that make sense? In her research, she found out that that is the ultimate key to creating connection. By definition, that is all love is. That is all love is right there. Positivity, synchrony, and charity. And we can bring it to any moment right now. And when we do, weirdly, we benefit because we are positive beings. We like being in sync with others. By the way, even if the synchrony is sadness at the funeral, I can still bring charity and positivity to the funeral. So it doesn't matter if the situation is positive or negative. It's what you're bringing. So I challenge you all to go bring these positive resonant moments. And then just one more quote, and I'm out of here, by a guy named Victor Hugo. Have you guys heard of Victor? He wrote a book called The Miserables. It's a great play. You ought to go watch it. It's also called Les Miserables. But the quote goes like this. He says, you must be like the bird who, halting in its flight on a limb that's too slight, feels the limb give way beneath him, yet sings, knowing that it hath wings. One more time. We must have the confidence of a bird that's about to land on a limb that can't hold it. And when the limb breaks beneath the bird sings because it has wings. You see, birds don't get their confidence from where they're perched. They get their confidence from their ability to fly. None of us should get our confidence from an economy that was flowing and working perfectly. We should get our confidence from the ability to work any economy. We should get our confidence not from where we live, but from our ability to create a home. We should get our confidence not from just that we're making it, we're succeeding, but the fact that I know how to get into a moment with somebody and create positivity, synchrony, and charity. When we get our confidence from our principles, we can always sing because we'll always have the principles that go with us. So I challenge you to ask yourself this one thing, the one thing that you all know about from Keller Williams. What's the most important thing you can take away today? What is your conscience telling you you need to do better and need to do more of? And I challenge you to go do that one thing. Accept what is, believe in tomorrow. It's going to get back. We'll get back. And connect deeply along the way. And I promise when you do, you'll have the power to sing and to fly. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Johnny, Emily, thanks for inviting
Matt,
me.
you're a rock star. I love all this. I think this is fantastic, positive energy. Just a couple quick things. I appreciate you being on the call. We have recorded this. If it's all right with you, we could put it on our private YouTube channel. I'm assuming,
you bet.
right?
Yep.
I also noticed on that website you recommended that they even have a kids character strength survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a teens and a kids, I believe. Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, the last question I have for you, because I know we only have a couple minutes, I'm fascinated by a lot of what you're saying. How do we learn more about you? Like, I know on your website you've got a bunch of different stuff. What would you recommend on engaging more with your group?
What I would do, if you go to matttownsend.com, you can find, I have a bunch of online classes, marriage classes. We're about to launch a coaching program to teach you how to coach your people. That should be coming up in about 2 months. We're putting an online anxiety class out in the next couple of weeks. Already online, I have an anxiety class, a parenting class, a relationship class, and a communication class. So just go to matttownsend.com. You can find all of those. Plus, I do private coaching over Skype or however you want to do it. Or I still am seeing clients in my office at 6 foot distance, of course. So just go to matttownsend.com. Awesome. Oh, by the way, I forgot, Johnny. Also, every day, if you go look me up on Instagram, Dr. Matt Townsend on Instagram, I about every other day, I'm putting down new principles that are like communication, relationship skills, relationship tips, and right now, how to get through this without so much anxiety, get through the chaos. Those are all just on my Instagram page, so go check that out.
Great. It's a really great tool for us to pass on to our clients too. I mean, we're lucky that we get exposed to these kinds of things in our industry, the positive side and learning this stuff, where most people in their industries, they don't talk about these kinds of things. True. So it's so helpful to have this and have some additional tools that we can be a light in other people's lives right now as well. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emily. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. We would love, once we get on the other side of this virus, we'd love to even maybe do a workshop or some sort of live class, because I think this is great time.
I love it. So you bet. I'd love it. I'm there for you.
Good. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the call, Matt.
You bet, guys. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.